Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Avini Vibes. We're excited tonight. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful group meeting tonight. Thank you for being with us. Avini Vibes is an extension of Avini Health, one of the most amazing companies that there is, I believe, on the planet Earth. And Avini Health is very, very special. And you're special for being here, for taking the time to join us this evening. We want to share information. We want to acknowledge some testimonials, and we want to share, educate. We're not here to make claims, medical claims, and of course, we're not here to diagnose. My name is Christine Rolando, and I'm right here in Work, New York. And we're grateful. Carol Witt, she's usually co-hosting, but Carol's a little under the weather tonight, so she's going to be with us here in our room, but not on camera tonight. So everybody's take care of your health this season, and that again why we're here. I thought tonight we would talk a little about. Sometimes we have Dr. Nikita with us. Often Dr. Nikita is with us most evenings, but she couldn't join us this evening. So I said, well, let's talk about a topic that is, I'd love to see a show of hands or even a thumbs up if you have anyone in your life or you know somebody that perhaps is on the autism spectrum. Anybody know anybody in their life or family on, yeah, I see lots of hands going up. Years ago, you didn't hear too much about autism, but I had a opportunity to have a beautiful, healthy child 33 years ago, and my sister had a baby at the same time, and my other sister. So we had all little three babies climbing on the floor together, crawling on the floor. And lo and behold, my nephew Jeffrey, not Jeffrey, I'm sorry, Andrew, at about 2.5, was diagnosed with autism. It's a long journey for families with autism. I watched my sister struggle. I watched my sister and her husband give up their law practice because they had to move around the country to face such a hurdle. Again, way back 33 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of tools, nor, it was still learning about. Now it's much more prevalent with the numbers of children with autism. And the problem we face today is that, Andrew now is 33. So what happens to a 33-year-old man that needs full-time care? And that's not only in my family, it's in many, many families. I remember way back when he was probably about 7 years old, my sister asked me if I could babysit Andrew. And she gave me some training of how to deal with behaviors. And I never forget because he was like twice my size. And, we had a good night babysitting, and it really took me down a path of being very heavily involved in the field of autism, running a therapeutic horseback riding center for many, many years. Andrew rode his first horse with me, and Andrew did not want to put the helmet on. Sensory overload is one of the issues that he faced. And he took that little helmet off and threw it on the floor. And we tried multiple times before we could get Andrew to keep the helmet on his head. Once he did, then he loved horses so much we couldn't get him off the horse. But what happens is, to many of the clients that would come in Andrew's class would come up on the little bus, and they'd come. There were about 7 or 8 of them. The boys were getting large, and I mean large because some of the medications were steroids or other medications that they were using for to help with seizure activity or behavior issues, or whatever that they were dealing with, because sometimes it's a dual diagnosis. And the horses, I remember having one boy who was almost 280 pounds. And in therapeutic riding, we have rules and regulations that we follow for a compliance that we do with the path, with the mothership of how you get certified to be in this field. And, some of our boys were just getting too large because we couldn't find, even the horses weigh 2,000 pounds. We had to have, very, very specialized horses. So that created a challenge. But lo and behold, all of those boys that came to that class are now adults and are now very, very excited because they are living in a group home now. And I'm going to share some really good news uh, at the end of this event tonight. But with all that said, many of you did raise your hand because you know somebody on the autism spectrum disorder. And I'm going to back up again in time when I remember going to a local organization, a school. We have something here called BOCES, and BOCES did not have, they had a program, a special needs program, but it was just starting out with what's called ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. That's a form of training that your DSPs, your direct service providers, use, and trained staff in autism would use this program. But they didn't, back then we didn't have a lot of it, and a lot of trained professionals in the field. And there was a program in New Jersey, in Bergen County, New Jersey. It was kind of cutting edge on the field of ABA. And now fast forward, we're further along in this field, and we're seeing so many good things. Because I remember another incident where Andrew was brought alongside of my sister's colleague, and the two of them had these two little boys, Andrew and Jake. And CBS, I think it was CBS or ABC, I think it was John Donovan from ABC, was the narrator, and they came along and they followed the story of both Andrew and Jake side by side when they were 7 years old. And then they brought along, they came back when he was like, I don't know, 14, and then they came back as adults. And you saw two little boys getting pretty much the best care that was offered in this country, by far, cutting edge, the best care, with ABA and with the services that they were get receiving. And Jake was mainstream back to high school, back into school, and went through high school and college, I believe. But Andrew didn't. And so we always, again, carve the path of what's going to happen if you have a child on the spectrum that's now a young diagnosed 3-year-old, maybe a 2.5, 3-year-old, and what happens as they start to age out. And that's what so many parents face. And that's why when I found out about Avini 2 years ago, one of the first stories I heard was a boy that had, some issues, and his father shared his story, and I heard his story. And Carol, if you don't mind, can we play that short little video clip
Absolutely.
of Thane?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Carol's going to get that video up. Now, Chip will know best of probably the time frame, because this is a few years ago of Thane. Can everybody see it?
Hello, Thane Shively coming to you from the thriving metropolis of Shelley, Idaho. I want to introduce you to my son. Go ahead and say your name.
My name is Carter Shively.
Okay. Now, Carter, you've been on the zeolite for how long?
2 weeks and 3 days.
2 weeks and 3 days. Okay. And in that 2 weeks and 3 day time frame, what have you noticed?
That I can find my answers faster, and I can speak more clearly.
Okay. And that helps you out with everything that you're doing as far as your schoolwork, when you're talking to your friends and everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, why is this important to you, Carter?
Because without it, it would take me a longer amount of time to find my answer, and I keep repeating myself.
Yep. And now you're not repeating yourself. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I'm interviewing you, Carter, is because years ago, Carter, don't remember exactly how old you were at the time, but he was actually diagnosed on the high-functioning autism scale. He's had a great deal of struggles and challenges, both in family life and friends life as well, and also academically in school. So finding something like this and making that big of a difference, and Carter, what do you feel? Would you recommend for them to try it as well?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Everything to gain and nothing to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, Carter.
Bye.
Thank you, Carol. So we were just where were we? Not in Boca. I believe it was in Vegas when we were out at the Avini conference in Vegas recently. I had an opportunity to meet him, and now he's a bit older. And I believe, I shook his hand and I thanked him, and he looked me in the eye, and he had a real nice conversation with me. And he told me that he got his driver's license. So there he is. So, so what happened? What happened? And he shares his story about using the Avini products, using the Cell Defender. Chip, you know a little bit more of the history, right? What is he, about 16, 17 now? You've known them a while.
So I've been literally immersed in a lot of these stories now. And the language that you were just speaking, some of the words that you just used, group homes, special needs, high functioning programs, best care, mainstreamed, um, you know, an autistic family learns a whole new language and they learn a whole new set of skills. And oftentimes, and you were talking about how infrequent this was. When I was born in 1950, maybe 1 in 10,000 kids would go this way. Now it's someplace like 1 in 30, and much worse for that for veterans returning from foreign wars. Thane and Carter are one of the happiest, and there's thousands of these kids now. It's almost guaranteed that they will do better when they get a hold of Avini. Carter is an absolute joy. I've been in their home, I've stayed with them overnight, I've been there, as it's spread from them to other kids. Much, much more difficult than Carter. But Carter came home one day, and the first time I got to meet him, I knew what had happened. I'd been in touch with him the entire time, but now I'm at their house and Carter comes home from school. Struck up a conversation with him. And just as you saw there, and as Christine described, I mean, he is like a wonderful person. You just a joy to be around. And he was struggling to mow the yard, to remember the instructions about what it took to mow the yard. He was struggling academically. He kept, as I said, everything came to him very slowly, and he kept repeating himself. Well, you would get none of that now. I mean, you would think that he was
typical.
Well, he is. He
Yep.
is probably one of the nicest kids you could meet, and so polite, so nice, so grateful to have access to himself. And when these kids start to straighten all this out, I remember, and I don't know how much you want me to talk about this, but I'm compelled to tell you,
Please.
when you hurt the brain, I don't care if you hit the brain. I'm here with my daughter tonight. She was run over by a Brahma bull. When she was being introduced as the pageant winner for the Scottsbluff County Fair, literally being introduced and run over by, and that night I saw her ask the same questions over and over again. Probably took 7 years before her brain started, really working right again. But these kids, most of it is toxic injury. So when you hurt the brain, you guys, it's predictable what's going to happen. What happens when you hurt the brain? And everybody's seen it because you've seen people get drunk. Same exact thing with someone whose brain is polluted. Inhibitions, judgment, fine motor skills, slurred speech, short-term memory, knowing how to interact with other people, where the bathroom is, gets worse and worse and worse. And the last two things the brain protects are long-term memory and organ function. If you want to, jump clear to the conclusion, to me, and I do these calls all day, every day, old timers disease, right? When the person's completely gone, their body's still sitting there, but the person seems to be gone. To me, autism is early onset old timers disease, maybe the same cause. So this is a big statement, I know, but I believe from what I see, all neuromuscular dysfunction either is, or is at the very least made worse by heavy metal poisoning. And when you begin to straighten it out, remember when you take Avini Cell Defender or any detox-like containing product, the very next time you pee, you're peeing these poisons. And it goes right down. Once another hierarchy of affinity: mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, tin, antimony, bismuth, strontium, uranium, plutonium, even gadolinium used for medical imaging, they begin to leave you. And you begin to regain, like waking up, like getting access to all the things that were lost. And the kids that it went to, I think about Artis and Alexa, and other people in the families that watched these happen over and over again. And, Christine, I didn't know that you had been, part of an autism family, part of an autism outreach. Part of your horse thing is an autism. And a lot of the work that's been done is behavioral. You take the kids. How come we don't know this? If there's 1 in 30 births now, or more than that, how come everybody doesn't see this? It's because the child and a caregiver both disappear from view. Because the kid can't go out anymore. They'll have outbursts. They don't like it. They have to have the same thing happen every day, maybe eat the same thing every day, and can't really function. If they do get to go to school or go to some sort of a work program, pretty much needs to be almost exactly the same every day, because the least little change throws them a curve. I remember reading a book about this when my kids were in school, because I saw some bad behaviors in some of the children. I thought, what the heck is going on with this? I mean, you'd go on a field trip, and one kid required every parent and the teacher to watch over him. The rest of the kids were on their own. I thought, what's going on with this guy? And I looked it up. And what I read was the story of one of the kids who had become an adult and worked his way through it. And he said, I knew I was about to do something, but I couldn't stop myself. Didn't have access to his filters or his judgment. The very first things that are taken, filters and judgment, fine motor skills, speech, bathroom habits, social interaction with other people, to empathize with other people, to be interested in other people, to love other people. When these kids come out of it, and I get to do this every day, what are some of the things they might say first? Oftentimes, first thing out of their mouth might be, I love you. And then it'll be, next thing you know, they'll sing or say the entire alphabet song.
Gray Pony. I had one little boy say Gray Pony. He was riding the Gray Pony every week. Gray Pony.
That made an impression, and it broke through. It broke through to it. So, and we have the answer. I remember trying to reach out to Autism Speaks. It's a big group, and they said, well, because we thought probably thimerosal, the mercury-containing preservative in vaccines, might have been part of the problem. And no, that's not it. And they rejected, what we were offering, trying to teach them. I found that you have to go one person at a time, one to one. It doesn't go into an entire group usually, and the group says, oh yeah, that's brilliant, I'm going to do that. I'm going to just bring, Cell Defender into this entire group, and it would work. They'd be fine, but it usually goes one at a time. And they said, no, that's not the answer. That's not what's hurting these kids. And I thought to myself, well, the name of the group is Autism Speaks. When autism isn't screaming at you, then tell me you've got the answer. Then tell me you've got the answer. I'm standing this far away from you, and I know what I'm telling you is true. I'm absolutely 1,000% confident that I'm right. How confident are you that I'm not? I know it for sure, because I've seen it over and over and over again for almost 20 years.
Chip, one of the things that dealing with parents, I was the director of a school where we had probably 70, it was 0 through 5, and we had a big autism program. So every child came in every morning, and they went to the DSP, the direct service provider, and they were up there for 6.5 hours on the second floor. And I was like the principal, but sometimes I could hear things going on up there. I'd have to run up because chairs were flying or things were happening or whatever. But the parent is afraid of changing because if you're having a good day, you don't want to implement. You don't want to give maybe even orange juice or something different because it could trigger a behavior. And behaviors can be so awful where they're self-injurious. I mean, I've been in many self-injurious situations, and I think that's the fear of when it's going good, you don't want to change it. And listen, I've had many conversations with many parents, and it's fear. So keep on going, Chip. I appreciate what you're sharing here.
Well, and right back at you, Christine. I mean, um, wow. It's and there, she says DSP, direct service provider. Christine was like the principal of a school of kids that were, all fighting these problems. And you'd hear in a classroom down the hall and up the stairs that there was an outburst. Well, that might spread to other kids, and then the whole day is gone. But when they start getting it back, and I probably should ask for stories from the group here. Surely there's people in here tonight that have worked with kids. I've been fortunate to I'm just going to tell one quick story, and then I'm going to ask you guys for your stories. I remember the very, very first one, probably, almost 20 years ago right now, had gotten a hold of Rik's product and just put it out to people as best as we could. And we began to grow a group. It's, the company failed. That's why we had to start over. There's a special ed teacher from Amina. Okay, so she's going to know. And it's a Saturday morning, my phone rings. I answer the phone and it's a mother in tears. And I said, "Oh my gosh, what's happened?" And she said, "It's my son." And I thought, "Oh my God." I mean, I'm just starting to work with Rik's product, and I'm thinking, what could possibly have happened? And she said, I said, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "He picked up a tractor and headed off across the rug making tractor noises." And I'm like washed over with kind of like relief. I'm thinking, okay, this isn't as bad as I was thinking. I said, is that bad or good? And then she really burst into tears and she said, "It's good." And that was the very first one. That was the very first one. I had no idea it would do this. I'm not sure Rik knew it would do this. And then all of a sudden it goes one to one to one to one with these compelling stories, but that critical mass thing where everybody seems to know it. There will be a day when everybody says, "Oh yeah, I always knew that." But right now, guess what? The people on this call with me, you're the only ones that know.
We have some guests on tonight, like Brandy New. Could you just do, I know it's not a short version, but a short version of Cell Defender Detoxolite, the tip of the spear?
Here's the quickest I can do it. When you take it, the effects begin immediately. The very next time you pee, you're peeing poison. Now you have a new form of hygiene. You can take a shower on the inside and wash away things you could not get at before. And the things that you're washing away have impaired every metabolic function, including neuromuscular function, going right down the center of the brain. I remember being up at Bev Ellis's place in Prince Edward Island, and there was let's see, this would have been like 2006, and there was a Scientific American laying on the coffee table, and the cover story was autism. And I opened it up in the middle, and it was an image of the brain, and said right down the center of the brain, right in the fold, there are mirror cells. And the mirror cells, they thought, were what was being attacked first, maybe one of the most dangerous places for autism. And that was where a person would smile if you smile, yawn if you yawn, empathize with other people. That's where the mirror cells that made that happen were. And they thought that was one of the most afflicted parts of the brain when autism set in. And there's been so much resistance. The dental community You know, that little 5-minute and 1-second video that I always ask all of you to watch that shows the insulation on the tiniest nerves in the brain being dissolved by mercury, literally taking, you know, the insulation off of the wires at the tiniest level, called tubulin, just like the myelin sheath in the body. Tubulin is even tinier. And now they start touching each other. And so the electrical message goes, who knows where? It doesn't go where it was going. And all of a sudden, the thoughts are scrambled. And some of the functions begin to get unpredictable. You know, some of these kids have to wear helmets because they'll beat their heads just to feel a different kind of pain other than the pain that they feel without beating their head. Or they can't say words, or they don't recognize grandma or dad when he comes home. Bathroom habits never, you know, don't get potty trained. And when Avini comes into the home, all of a sudden the progression begins to move, and you'll be astonished at how much they have picked up along the way. But somehow the connector between knowing, seeing, feeling, and expressing or behaving properly, somehow there's a disconnect. And the beautiful thing about your brain is it keeps striving to make those connections again. And here's the best way I can make that point for you new people. Exactly like we are making a connection with you tonight. That's what's going on in all of our brains. If it's successful, the idea moves forward. If it fails, you either just sit there or you lose ground. Exact same thing on an interpersonal basis that happens cell to cell in a brain. Exact same thing.
And for those of you that are new, if you just come on tonight, remember we're talking about this topic tonight, but the cell defender is taking those heavy metals out of your body, which gives a clean body fixes itself. So we're not only talking about autism, we're talking about other things. Tonight just so happens to be a topic of discussion.
So every metabolic function, right? Every single metabolic function, making energy, everything, just for example, making new cells. If all of a sudden you start making new cells more frequently, you're going to get younger. If you make them more accurately, you'll be more healthy. If you start making them slower and worse, that becomes senescent cells or zombie cells or aging, premature aging and diminished human properties. So with Avini, you can, I say, become, and I don't care who you are. If you're the sharpest person on the call tonight, you are somewhat afflicted like this. It's like we're all traveling around with a bunch of people that are slightly inebriated unintentionally intoxicated, right? And when you start cleaning it up, I believe that the entire population will get along better with each other, be sharper, show up at work more, take the pressure off the healthcare system. All that stuff, I think, is connected to what we're talking about right here, right now. I think we've got the magic answer. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you, Chip. Eddie, you had your hand up, or I saw your light go on. Did you want to share a story?
Yeah, thanks, Chip. That was awesome. I have a niece who has I guess he's 7 now, and his name is Jason, and I see him very infrequently. And so when I saw him, it was about 5.5, and Ashley, God bless her, is cut from my mother's cloth, who Alan knows. My mom was a phlebotomist, and she was incredible. She knew about clinical like zeolite and all that stuff back in the day, and big fan of Rick's before she passed away. But Ashley followed Mom, and Mom would say, "We're going on a detox trip to West Palm. I got a timeshare. You're going with me for 7 days. What are we going to do? We're going to drink juice, and we're going to detox." And so Jason, I saw him, and I every time I saw him, he was chirping. All right, he was just chirping. It was like a bird. Like I would say, "Hey, buddy," and he would be like, "Eat, eat, eat, eat." There was no words, but from the time he was 2 to 2.5 to the time he was 5.5, all he wanted to watch was Jeopardy. And it was Alex Trebek Jeopardy reruns all the time. So he, I guess he was taking all of it in, but he couldn't spit anything out. And so all this knowledge is going into his brain, but he was frustrated. He was not angry, but he would take a bowl of marbles and just dump them in the toilet. He would just take a vase, expensive vase, and just throw it on the floor. And so Ashley started getting on the cell defender about a year ago, I guess. So I kept keeping in touch with her and saying, "Hey, how you doing? Are you giving him it?" She was like, "Yes, I am." Any progress? And so to make a long story short, she was sitting there and, like we know, macaroni and cheese, pizza, this and fish sticks or whatever. It's like if you deviate from that, they get a little bit, they get a little angry. And so one day, I guess about 6 months ago, Ashley called me and she said, "Oh my God." She said, "I went to the kitchen to put a frozen pizza in the oven, and Jason said, 'No, I want Domino's. Order a Domino's.'" And it blew her mind. So that
Wow.
was a cry moment for her, right? Then, about a month or two later, she took him to school and they were coming back and she picked him up and she was going home. And he said they were at a red light and he said, and now he's doing the frequency. He's doing like 6, 7 drops 3 to 4 times a day. So he's sitting at a red light and he said, "Where are we going? I want to go to Mimo's." "That's a right." And Ashley was like, "What? You know how to get to Mimo's?" He said, "Yeah, I want you to go right, go make a right turn." So most recently, I saw him about a week ago. And this kid is so happy now. Every time I saw him, blank stare, never acknowledged me. Now he comes up when I see him, he hugs me and he looks me in the eyes. So he's playing a video game. I go to my sister's, he's sitting there and he's having fun, he's laughing and everything. And I walked in and I said, "Are you winning?" He said, "Yes, I'm winning." I said, "Are you a winner?" He said, "I am a winner." And he hugged me. And that blew my mind. This is making contact once every month or two. But I saw it from the beginning, nothing but a chirp. I'm thinking, "Does this kid even know who I am?" He would look at me like, "I don't even know you." And I try to hug him and he just kind of turn around, "Christine, and Chip. So to see him, and I patted him on the back and I said, "I'm so proud of you. You're such a winner." He said, "I am a winner." Now he's starting to talk in sentences. And a year and a half ago, all I heard was a bird chirping. That's all I heard. So all that stuff that's inside of him, that he gained the knowledge. If you put a cartoon on a year and a half ago, he'd get mad. He'd be like, "I want Jeopardy." So he was gaining knowledge and now he's able to kind of put it back out there. So yeah, so Ashley, my niece, she'll be on at some point, tell the whole story. I'm giving you tidbits, but it was so gratifying for me to see this little guy communicate with his uncle because he never talked to me before.
So
Yeah.
this Thursday evening group is growing. There's new people coming. And I believe what you have heard from Christine Rolando and Ed Kowalski so far, and probably from more of you, you're beginning to understand why they have to do this, why they're so bold, why they have the courage to speak to anybody about anything. They know, they know what they've seen. I know what I've seen. You cannot be wrong. You cannot hurt anybody. Beautifully told you to. Wow. Anybody else? Where are we at here?
Is it Amy with us? Amy Warner? Amy, you with us? If you are, you want to unmute. Amy has an amazing story. I don't know if she's joining us tonight. She
She
shared
wrote
it
me
with
just a
me.
little bit ago. She needs to talk to somebody about 9.99 packs. So if there's somebody in her direct line there that could interact with her about 9.99 packs, I couldn't do it before I just found it, and then so she's doing something. She's probably enrolling someone.
Well, Amy, I'll just tell you the brief version of Amy's story. She and I, about a year ago, met with a young mom, and she babysits lots of little kids. And I remember going in their house and showing them, telling them all about the Avini products. And the little boy looked up at me, and he was probably about 2.5. He was nonverbal, and his little eyes were crossed. And he looked up at me, and I said, "We have to talk to the mom about giving," because she was babysitting this little boy. And the mother refused. The mother said no. So, long story short, I don't know if this is the same boy, but Amy said they finally gave the cell defender. Within 2 or 3 days. The little boy was not only talking, but he was talking to his mama and go in the other room and then talk to his dad and go back in the room and talk to his mother. And she just couldn't believe it. Even the preschool teacher said, "What in the world's going on with this little boy? He's a different person." He was able to get his voice. He found his voice, and it was a beautiful thing. Anybody else have a story that you'd like to share?
So confident in that part of the story that I tell the parents, I say, do not tell the people where he is all day long or she is all day long. Usually it's boys. Boys get it worse.
Yeah.
Don't tell them. Let them call you and ask you what the heck's going on. I guarantee you they will. It
That's what
happens
happened.
every time, because they will call and they'll say, okay, what's going on? It happens every time. It's part of every story. And it's more fun if you don't tell them. Let them call you and say, okay, something's changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. The other thing is some of the ones that some of the the autism, if you're on the autism spectrum disorder, now you're an adult, a lot of times, like I've worked with helping them get jobs and getting them into the community. So now they have their high functioning, and they're working in the community. I work with one boy particularly, and he just told me how excited he is because he's getting a job and he's going to be making $600 a week, Christine. $600 a week. Do you know how much money that is? You know what I could do with that? Like, it was so great. And I said, well, listen, you need to start a savings account right away. And he already did the math and he recited all the math. And I told him I'm going to hire him as my aide and help me with some of my computer skills. And he glad to do it, Miss Christine. He said, glad to do it. So, that was a beautiful story too, because they're just beautiful, beautiful people. Anybody else have anything you want to share? If not, we have another short little video clip of Thane. Carol, shall we show that video?
Okay.
All right. This one's a little bit longer, but this is a pretty powerful story. I'm going to mute. You can fast forward that first little part of it if you want, but
Okay. Let's see if I can.
let's see.
Let me get it up here. Hold on.
All right.
All right. Good.
It's buffering. Hold on. Come on, baby.
You can just start it from the beginning if you want. Not going to work?
It's not coming on. Hold on. Let me give it one more chance here.
Okay. Chip, he's going to share.
It'll be Artist and Alexa.
Yes.
I'll know the story if you need it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not coming on.
Yeah, it's not going to buffer. All right. So yeah, Chip, if you would tell the story about what he's going to share, it'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm coming out.
Okay.
Okay. So, everybody knows about dads that step back and dads that step up. There was a family, 2 little girls, and then a little boy came. And the little boy was highly, highly in trouble with this. On the spectrum, almost to fall off the end, and violent. Some are violent. This little boy, Artist, was violent. The mom's name was Alexa. He got kicked out of every single school and every single program. This is a kid that's like 6 years old. they're going to take his older sisters out of the home because they feel like they're in danger with him in there. The family blows up. One dad steps back, another dad steps up. And I always admire the dad that steps up. I got one of those along the way. I had one of each, I guess. So I appreciate that. Actually, the bad one grew up right up by where Christine lives, Middletown, New York. That's where he was a kid. The bad one. Anyway, they got to the point that they said, if you have trouble with him again, call 911 because none of us can deal with it. We're going to take the daughters out of the home and then take them to the other dad. So it was literally separating the kids. Here comes Thane with Carter's story that you just heard. Carter's story, much more gentle, but Thane emboldened. He's new, like many of you might be tonight. He thinks, well, if it did that, maybe it'll do, if it did my son Carter, maybe it'll do this boy. And I'll be doggone if it didn't work. And so interesting how this thing moves forward. I go to their town to make a presentation. The restaurant that we're going to go to has been COVID closed, and they're going to try to open for the first night. They put together a staff, kind of just for us to show up. And he had put up a meeting there a few weeks before, and then they couldn't get enough staff to do it. So when I pulled into town, I went to the location it was going to be at, and I walked up to the manager, and this is a little detail, kind of weird, but it's what happened. And I walked up to her and I said, do you have a staff? And she said, yeah, I think I do for tonight. And I said, well, thank you so much. It's really important that we get to be here. And I said, I don't know what the crew will be like, how big we'll be, but I gave her, I said, this is enough of a tip. You can spread it around the crowd. I don't know how the people that are here that you're going to feed tonight will tip, but I just wanted to get you started. And so she kind of appreciated that. And then I noticed during the meeting, and I was the primary speaker, but then at the end, Artis and Alexa and the new dad stood up and told that story. She's standing in the kitchen door, cleans everything up after the meeting, walks up to Thane and says, we have the same thing in our family. And she's there, working hourly, trying to put together a staff, put together a meal for us, get some money. You're surrounded by this and you don't even know it. I guarantee you're surrounded by it and don't even know it, because the caregiver and the child disappear from view. Like Ed said, if you try to change the diet a tiny bit, you'll get a revolution like you never dreamed of. If you try to change the game or change the channel that they watch, or maybe the movie they watch over and over and over again, you'll have a revolution like you never dreamed about, because there's no way for them to deal with the change. And then all of a sudden, this wonderful human that was always almost there comes to the front when you allow the connections to start happening, just exactly like are happening on this call tonight. What's going to happen because you were able to receive the message? What's going to happen? Something awesome will happen because of this gathering, these stories tonight, because Ed and Christine told the story, because Thane told the story. And some of you know where to go with it. And you really will be so bold and nothing will sway you from your desire to be part of one of these stories. We have stepped into a stream of miracles. They're not going to quit happening because you need one or it's you that's bringing one. That's all I got.
Thank you, Chip. You know, I appreciate that so much because sometimes we're afraid of what other people might think. And I'm going to ask you if you know of a person that comes to mind that has a family member, a child, or newly diagnosed. Please be bold. If you don't have the confidence or you need more information, reach out and call one of us. We'll get on the phone and help you with your client, your parent, your family, because I know firsthand how many times I might cry, but sometimes she'll call me up and I'll say, "How are you today?" And she'll say, "Oh, it's been a bad week." Or, "Oh, it's been, he's really bad today." So if we can be the ones to help usher in some favorable days, please do it. Let's do it together. That's what Avini Vibes is about. Amazing products, getting the body clean so it can heal itself. We're all here for a reason, as Chip said tonight, and sharing. Carol, thanks for always being here to host this. And if there are any other comments or anything anybody wants to say, they're just getting lots of thank yous. So in the chat, we're here to support you too. Let's go out and find some families that are praying. Gary, you have a comment? I see you.
Totally off the topic, but I'm wondering if Chip has time to share a brief update on Memphis.
The goose?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
I'm
the
not
swan?
talking about the city. Yeah,
The swan. The swan.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Memphis is a swan. There was a pair of swans where I would walk every morning by one of the old folks' homes. And what we believe happened is a cougar took the female about a year ago now. And so there was a effort. And interestingly enough, this particular type of swan just usually keeps geese from landing on a pond. But when the female goose, or when the female swan was killed by the cougar, a Canada goose became the friend and was always with Memphis, who is the surviving male. And there was a fund drive. And I actually went by just to check on them morning before last. I walked by the pond, and the new swan is now an adult female, and they're together, and it looks as though they've always been together, and there's the pair of swans on the pond, and so that it's amazing to me you remembered the name of the swan. That's incredible, Gary. That's incredible. Yeah.
Well, and you had told one part of the story was that the Memphis would come out of the water and would tend to greet you, but ignore the other passerbyers.
He would, well, because I walked by pretty much every morning, he would come out and he would make himself look big. He'd spread out his wings, and he'd move his head threateningly. He was basically telling me to stay away from her.
Stay away.
That's what he was talking. I don't know if he was greeting me so much as he was saying, "Dude, that's my swan," and he said, "You stay away from her."
Yes, swans can be aggressive. Swan can break a bone in your body if they hit you with the wing. So I've had a couple experiences with two swans once. So yeah, I have two ducks that are on Cell Defender, by the way. I have two ducks currently that are on Cell Defender, so I'll keep you posted on them, hoping for recovery. One had a broken leg. They this year the ducks have been really taking a lot of abuse up here. And I hate to say this, but the males have been overly aggressive and really beating the crap out of the women ducks. So two of them got hurt so bad we had to get them in a cage and put them, and broke one of them broke its leg. So I've been using the Plus Relief and the Cell Defender. So I'll keep you posted on the duck story as well. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. Alan, are you waving or you want to speak?
Just one short thing. Swans mate for life, just so you'll know.
Yes, they do. Yes, they
That's
do.
correct. Yes, they do. Yep. And unless one of them dies, and then they will replace. Yep. That's
Right.
that's cool. That's right. Yes, you bet.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. See
Thank
you next
you.
Thursday night. Happy holidays, Merry
Great
Christmas,
call.
and all that good stuff. Go out and share Avini, okay? We're all in this together to help the next person. God bless.
Bye.
Thank
I'm
you
not
for your work,
everybody.
everyone. You're awesome. You
Bye,
guys
everyone.
really had a big month.
Very, very great call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Carol.
See you soon.